Less than 4 weeks until kickoff, so I have 4 games that could be the most important games for our Michigan State Spartans coming up this fall. We talk about it with Stephen Brooks. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down and the sports stop sporting like we want them to. FanDuel's here to rescue us, hooking all customers up with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day. All summer launches. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for kicking off your week with us here at Locked On Spartans. Your team, as you already know it, in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, hit us up, lockedonspartans@gmail.com. And folks, first time in a long time, we are joined by the one, the only Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports. This is only his 80th appearance on this show, seemingly. And Stephen, as we are talking right now, 4 weeks until kickoff, I've been debating what is the most important game for Michigan State coming up this fall. I got 4 games written down in front of me. I'm going to put you on the hot seat, though, right now, right off the bat. Do you have a guess as to which one that I'm leaning towards being number one right now for this upcoming fall?
Good luck. I don't. Yeah, you told me, full disclosure, you told me the topic ahead of time, which out of my 80 appearances might be like the first time.
Sure.
So I actually got to think about things a little bit. But I was going to text you. I was like, no, I'll save it for the show because I bet my 4 are different from yours.
Okay.
Maybe a little overlap the more I thought about it, but I think I'm probably – I don't know. Maybe we're totally in lockstep, but I think I got probably a couple different ones than you are. So you're number one, I'm guessing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're a worrier. You're a panicker. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Florida Atlantic. I'm going to say game 1.
You know –
where am I at?
You know me very well. You've known me for quite some time now. Peek behind the curtain. You know me for about a decade now at this point. But I've also been working on myself, Stephen. I'm not that much of a worrier where I'm willing to admit that Florida Atlantic is at the top of my list. Now, maybe somewhere deep down inside, I'm very terrified of the Owls. And I know damn well when game week approaches, I'll sleep for 30 minutes combined the entire week. But as things stand right now, I'm actually between 2 games for number one. Neither of them are the Michigan game. So I'm just going to go ahead and throw the controversy out there right now. More seasons than not. Like, that is by far the number one game. I'll explain why it's not at the top later on here. But I'm between the week 2 game against Maryland and then the homecoming game against Iowa. The Maryland game, I think, as crazy as it is, I might give that the nod for the most important game of the season because, well, you can set up momentum for the rest of the season. And that goes for inside the locker room, the players inside the helmets, the guys that actually matter here, because you instill instant belief in your team. You can show that, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't a rebuilding year, because that will be a solid Maryland squad that they would beat on the road. That's going to give a jolt of energy to the players as much as it is the fan base too. Like, this is going to create energy. 2-0 start, realistic roadmap to a 4-0 start if you beat Maryland on the road. And my goodness gracious, could that mean college game day in East Lansing if you start 4-0? I don't know. Who's to say for that Ohio State game? So you can't quantify energy and sizzle around a program, but I think a win in week 2 would be the most important game. But I was just right there because it's the homecoming. I think it's the most realistic possibility of a quote-unquote upset this season. But I don't know. Is that just so weird to throw a Maryland game, a game that more seasons than not lacks sizzle? I mean, but I just think that it could be an important game here early on for our Spartans.
In lacking sizzle, I mean, last time I went out there, whatever it was, 2 years ago, I guess.
Yeah,
that was the deadest college campus I've ever seen on a game day. It was bizarre. I don't know if it was some weird like quarterly break or something, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think it was, but it was wild walking around to the stadium. It felt like a ghost town. I felt like I was there on Sunday, like I was there the wrong day or something. There was no juice, no buzz, and so we'll see what that is for game 2 for him. No, I mean, when you brought up the topic of like the most important, I really thought about that, and obviously you can take that a lot of different ways. And Maryland was on the list of things I considered for a lot of the reasons you said. The first time they leave home, of course, the Big Ten opener for this staff.
Yeah.
But I actually went a couple weeks later, and just with the first chronologically of mine was Boston College.
Okay.
I think you look at that another first-year staff. I think you look at that as pretty much a total coin flip, like roster-wise, talent-wise, and you're going on the road for a second time. It's your big non-conference game. So there's some similar things with Maryland, right? Like you go on the road early, you get that win. Like you're going to get a similar boost or whatever, out of either of those scenarios. I went with Boston College because I don't see them competing for the Big Ten, so I don't think the conference tie-in with Maryland.
Sure.
If you get up to 1-0 or 0-1 start, I don't think that matters necessarily for this team this year. Whereas a non-conference road win, team from another league, team that you haven't played before, at least in a long time, I should say, that just is a different kind of feather in the cap, And again, sort of on equal footing as two first-year staffs with Bill O'Brien out there. Maryland is a more, season sort of program, like you think about how MSU's two deep was destabilized this offseason with all the turnover, and we're going to talk, all these different pieces and where do they all fit and everything. Maryland, they haven't been putting up banners and trophies and everything. They haven't been recruiting out of their minds, but they've still had the same head coach and the same program and philosophy for several years now. So you would think that their pipeline, and like I said, they're too deep at certain positions and things. Their overall depth is in a better place. Now they lose that quarter, Tunga Vailoa was there forever, but that's kind of where I'm at there. Just thinking you want to go out there. And when you look at the path to 6 wins or more, get into a bowl game in year one, I think that's pretty much the baseline goal for the program this year. College is definitely, both of them are really, but Boston College is definitely on the table as a swing game that they can get. So that's where I was at with that one.
The same line of reasoning is kind of with where I'm at with the whole Michigan game thing, because it sounds ridiculous to say out loud, and like maybe I'm just a coward and that's just me as a person, but yeah, more years than not, like that is your most quote unquote important game. But I'm sorry, like I'm also viewing this like through the lens of reality. Okay, last year's game didn't go so hot. They also just won the national title this year. We were at rock bottom. They're only going to get worse from last year. We're only going to get better seemingly, but still, I think that gap is pretty sizable where I don't necessarily expect a win. Like right now, if you just look at the analytics, it's going to be like a 20-ish point spread. And of course, things can change during the season. But I don't know, like to have that number one, just to, hope that we get defeated with dignity. Again, if I could pull out the old State News headline, Steven, like I got a hard time making that our headliner. I just think that amongst like the 6 or 7 coin toss games, we'll dub them, like the Marylands, like the Boston Colleges, like the Rutgers, which is also in my top 4. I think those are just more important this year than just keeping it somewhat close against Michigan. Is it important? Of course. Like you want to, send out to your recruits that, okay, we can close the gap. This is how much we've closed it in year one. Imagine how great it'll be if you come along here. But I'm sorry, like I know that some State fans are going to hate me talking like this. That I just don't think that a win is going to be realistic, and that might be silly too, because we're less than 5 years removed from beating them as 24.5 point underdogs. And I know that was COVID and everything, but regardless, anytime you beat someone as a 3+ touchdown underdog, it's shocking. I don't know. How much of a coward am I being right now, Stephen, by not having that be my headliner for this year? Like it will change from here on out, but just for this year, I think these coin toss games to get to bowl eligibility and make yourself in the right tier of the Big Ten is just more important right now.
I agree totally. I mean, you look at Michigan as like a pleasant surprise, I would say. Like if you beat them, of course, and you do like a surprise 2008 Mark Antonio thing, and it's like, wow, that makes the season then. But right now we can't point to them and say, and I think Michigan's going to take a solid step back. I don't expect them to win the Big Ten. I think they'll be a good team. Their defense is going to be very, very good.
Sure.
But they could be a 2-3 loss team. But so I don't think they're unbeatable. In the same way they were last year, especially with all the circumstances. But I definitely don't think they're unbeatable. But I don't look at it as a game. Yeah, you hope that they compete well. And geez, if they were to spring an upset, obviously, like I said, that'd be the story of the season. But
yes,
you're taking a very realistic view of it, I think. And I'm right there with you. That bowl game, 6 wins, a lot of those coin flip games, that top 4 and that bottom 4 with a whole bunch of winnable games in there. How many of those do you win? That's the season to me. That middle quadrant there, or middle 4, I guess, the middle third, set of 4 games. Realistically, you're probably looking at 0-4.
Plenty more to come with our guy Steven Brooks of 24/7 Sports. But first, hey, eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Guys, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. Let me say that again. 122 million parts. My goodness gracious. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every single time, or it's your hard-earned money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge wins. So what are you waiting for out there? Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers.
So anyway, chronologically, I mean, so that's Oregon and Ohio State. They're not even in the same neighborhood. You can't even, that's not even worth discussing. That's probably going to be pretty bad a couple of weeks there. Iowa, of that four, I agree with you. It would be my next one, though. Of that four, that middle section, that's just a gauntlet. If they're going to get one, I think it's Iowa. Just being at home, and I think Iowa's going to be pretty dang good. Like, if we were in the old format, I'd pick them to win the West in a landslide. I think they're going to, their defense as well is going to be lights out again. And Cade McNamara, I think, is, when he's healthy, is a really good quarterback for what they do. Now they're retooling their offense a little bit, but I don't expect it to be a night and day difference. I expect, a couple more touchdowns, a couple more first downs, but it's still going to be Iowa smash mouth phone booth football, for the most part. And I think McNamara is good, in that role. So I think Iowa's legit dangerous, could even be a playoff team possibly out of the league. But
nice.
The fact that they come to MSU Spartan Stadium, that gives it a little bit of an edge. But, of that four, Michigan would be the second in terms of winnable games, I'd say. But on my list, Iowa's in there because I do think it's the best chance for them to somehow rise up and get one of those big ones.
You just took all my talking points. That's why I have Iowa, in the top right there of that middle gauntlet of the season. Just like you said, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan. I'm sorry if this just makes me the worst MSU fan out there, but I'm not holding out much hope for those games. But Iowa, you do have hope. I mean, yeah, that defense is going to compare to an NFL-style defense. Like, that is going to be nuts. But that also means that, hey, just like with every Iowa game seemingly they've ever played, it's a race to 20 points. You have them at home. It's going to be homecoming. I mean, this could be a big swing of momentum coming off the heels of the Ohio State and Oregon game. So that's why I have this on my top four important games. Yes, it will be a tough game.
Iowa's off a bye as well.
Yeah, off a bye, and they very well could be 5-1. I mean, they do play Ohio State in their first 6 games, but other than that, not a lot of challenges. I believe they have Washington the week before that bye. I think that's going to be a home game too. So that's going to be a very good Iowa team, just like you said, Steven. So it's gettable. Don't expect it, but we've gotten this question all the time, like, hey, what's the big upset that you're going to predict this season? I think Iowa's the one they're going to lean closest towards right now, just because it often is a race to 20 points. And hey, you know what? Special teams can only go up from last year if you're a Michigan State Spartan fan.
Yeah, if you're one of those people that thinks they're going to, I'm of the belief that like 6-6 is probably about as good as it's going to get.
Okay.
And I definitely think lower than that is possible. But if you're one of those 7-8 win people, if you're a 9-win person, I don't even know if we can have a discussion, to be honest, because that's
fair.
Too much space for me. But
yeah,
if you're thinking 7 or 8, that's they're going to have to go rise up and get one of those, and Iowa definitely looks like the most gettable of those.
No, you nailed it. So, I mean, really quick, my fourth game, I have it stacked in number 1, Maryland, number 2, Iowa, number 3, Michigan, just because, like, I can't, completely wuss out and have them off my top 4. But I think number 4, really quick, Rutgers, one of those coin toss games. It's to end the season. I think this is one of the ones where you want to be on the right side of the hierarchy in the Big Ten. You can't let them get you twice in a row. So this being a home game, I think that'd be pretty important. So that's just why I have that as number 4. Let's get a good walk-off to the season here. And make sure you're just ahead of Rutgers in the pecking order. And that, like, I got to say this too. This isn't Chris Ash's Rutgers. Like, Rutgers is a fine program now these days. But still, at the end of the day, you just got to be ahead of them. So that's why I have that as my 4th most important game.
We matched more than I thought. Dang, I thought it was going to be more suspense than this. But yeah, so I had Michigan on my 4 too. Just, it is Michigan. Yeah. I do think there's not a 0% chance they win that game.
It's not.
It's not 0. It's just not. Oregon, that's a 0. Or Ohio State, probably a 0. but I don't think Michigan is. Maybe it's 1 or 2. But
yeah,
hey, it's that. So and it's just the opportunity. If they were to somehow rise up and pull that off, we saw what it did for Mel Tucker early on, and when Mark Antonio first. Whenever you do it for the first time, but especially if it is your first game, I mean it's just so important. It's never not going to be. And then Rutgers was mine too. Of all those coin flip games, I think that's the hardest one probably. And again, where I'm sitting looking at them, that could be their bowl game, or it could be the difference of, that could be the difference of getting to 6 wins, or maybe if they're out of that race, like I said, that is their bowl game and they want to finish strong. I think Rutgers is going to be sneaky good this year. Their schedule is incredibly soft too.
So
maybe they won't be that good, but on paper, yeah, because I think they miss I don't want to misspeak, but they miss a lot of heavy hitters in the league. Most of them, I think they got to go to USC, or maybe USC comes out of there, but I think Oregon, Ohio State, they missed both of them. I think they missed Michigan, so I think they missed Penn State as well, actually. But fact check me on that, folks. But regardless, the point is they have a really soft schedule, but I do think they're a solid team. They've slowly built. You talk about programs developing and maturing under Shiano. They've slowly built it back up a little bit to respectability. I'm not going to say they're out here, scaring a lot of teams, but they're respectable, I'd say. And they did lose that game last year. And it's the fact that it's the last one as well, and what could be on the table. Aside from the fact that I do think they're better, they're probably the toughest team of that group when you look at Maryland, Illinois, Purdue, Indiana. And going to Illinois, is no slouch either, I think, for the same reasons. They're a program that's slowly been sort of inching forward a little bit and done some decent things the last couple of years. So the thing I try to talk to, I try to caution people is you look at this and you say, oh, we're better than Indiana or whatever. We're better than Rutgers. We're better than Purdue. Sure, you can say that right now, but MSU was better than Indiana 2 years ago. Remember when Indiana came in there and completed 2 passes? MSU had Rutgers beat last year before they dropped that punt. MSU had Iowa basically on the ropes last year before they returned that punt. So you can say these should be wins, but when you're talking about comparable talent level teams and factors of out of your control, weather, going on the road, a key injury or whatever, for this team, the way the state of the program right now, I don't think you can just definitively say, oh, I'll bet my house that they beat Indiana. I don't think you can say that. And when we talk coin flips, I think a lot of these, at least as we stand here right now, they are coin flips in the truest sense of the word. So I just want to remind folks that, 'cause it's how could we be, competing with these, bottom dwellers? But again, those references I just mentioned, they should have won all those games, and you would have said that probably in the summers before, we're sitting here right now. But then football happens, then real life happens, and the torrential downpour in Piscataway happens, and to catch punt snaps and things like that. Things happen. So that's where I'm at. And then of course the biggest thing, which you just cannot when you're looking at trying to put numbers on it and 6-6 and 7-5 or whatever, you can't. Nobody can tell me how that middle section sets them up for the last section.
Right.
Do they just get steamrolled by those 4 teams in the middle? And then where will they be mentally and physically moving into that last 4? I read an example I used the other day. They got just hammered by Penn State, right? They weren't as bad as they looked in that game, but they had just been beaten down mentally and physically in so many ways by the time that game got there. They were not in the same league as Penn State. Let me be clear, but they weren't as bad as they showed in that game. But could something similar, where will the confidence be coming off that 4-game stretch? Maybe the opposite. Maybe they rise up and get in Iowa, or they play Michigan into the 4th quarter or something, and that propels them into November. But I just can't predict which way that's going to go right now, because that middle section is such a gauntlet. And how do they come out of that between the ears and, injury report wise? That's what I cannot predict. Yeah. Could I see a 4-0 November? Sure. But could I see 2-2, 1-3, something like that? Sure. Absolutely. So that's the hard part about trying to map out this season.
To bring it full circle, that's why I have the Iowa game so high up, is because you can't go a month without a win just between the ears, if not for nothing else. You just need to prove to yourself that, okay, yes, we can beat legitimate teams and vault you into November. Feeling okay about yourself. But thank you for bringing up those glory days too of the Indiana game a few years ago and the Rutgers game last year. But no, this is why we are counting on C see this upcoming fall. I'm not talking closed captioning, not talking Connor Cook, not talking Caitlin Clark. We're talking competent coaching, Steve, and hopefully competent coaching can get us to the finish line in games like this, and that is what we're praying that Jonathan Smith can deliver here. Still more to come with Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports, but first, FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. They are making the summer just that much brighter. Guys, we only got like a week left of Olympics, and that makes me a little sad because FanDuel has made it that much more exciting. Now, I've always loved Olympics, every single sport. It's great, but what does FanDuel do for you? It adds a little to the heart rate during these Olympic sports. Guys, I got a beach volleyball future out there. I've been doing some wagering on swimming. And man, if you thought it was fun watching the races before, just sprinkle a little bit on FanDuel, put you in the game. And well, when the Olympics go away, I mean, the playoffs are already gone too. All we got is baseball, a little bit of golf. That means the sports aren't sporting like we want them to. And you're probably, unsatisfied with the amount of sports on your TV right now. But FanDuel, again, guys, they are here to make the summer brighter. They are letting us go whenever we want. All we got to do is open up the app and dream up bets whenever we are in the mood, because this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Just head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of the rest of your summer. It's FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. With that said, hey, first week of fall camp in the books. That summer felt like it was roughly 12 minutes long, I'm sure. Biggest storyline for you coming out of the first week of fall camp is what, Mr. Brooks? Hit us.
Oh, man, I'm putting it like that. The biggest, I would just say probably, it's maybe a little boring, but so they let us in there for a little bit the first day, and they were incredibly healthy,
Yes. Yes.
The only red jerseys were quarterbacks, which I don't think has ever been the case when I've been out there. And, you just didn't see casts and braces and crutches, and I didn't see any of that. There were two guys I saw that didn't participate. They're both true freshman offensive linemen. So guys you're not counting on. Guys, I don't even know what the reason was. They might have had a cold or something. I don't know. But very healthy, and so with that, you're talking about guys like a couple guys, at least for me, like Alex Van Sumeren was out there running around doing things. Guy that's, formerly highly touted recruit, just hasn't been able to do much here because of injuries. Stanton Ramil, exact same boat at offensive tackle. Missed all of last season, was back out there. Two guys that I still think have very, very high ceilings. Two guys I loved coming out of high school. Van Sumeren was the #1 player in his class and the MSU signing class that year. And then Ramil, I think, was the third behind DePape and by Joe, but #1, tackle, #1 offensive player. So it just, critical positions this year and for the future. So I would say that, they're really, having been to two media sessions and everything, they're definitely still in evaluation mode, and I genuinely. So there's not a lot of answers when you ask about this position or that position, because they are still trying to figure stuff out. You think about being a coach now. 5 years ago in camp, you might have had, 15 new faces, the rest of your freshman class that didn't come early, and then maybe 2 or 3 transfers, maybe, we're talking a pre-portal days. So it just, 80% of your roster was already ready to go, and you could sort of move forward. Now they got probably 30 plus, or more new faces. I haven't done all the math, but between the transfers from the summer and the rest of the freshman class, you're talking about a huge swath of the roster that has never had an install, never ran these plays, never done some of these things. So that just changes fall camp and how you approach it. Not that this is unique to Michigan State at all, but I just think it's different. Whereas you used to be able to just hone in strictly on evaluation and just reps and reps and reps and reps and reps, and then filter out who's ready and who's not and go from there. You're doing that simultaneously teaching the bare basics of the schemes to a lot of these guys. So it's just different. And like I said, it's different for everybody, but I think that makes it a little bit of a slower process too, because they're literally figuring things out. So how am I going to know who's starting at this spot or that spot? So that's something. Another thing real quick is just Jalen Thompson switched sides from rush end in the spring to being a strong side end now. And then they brought in a couple of those transfers, ended up at the rush end, Tyler Gillison and Anthony Jones from Indiana. So that's notable to me because I think Jalen Thompson is one of the better D linemen, and this guy's going to play a lot. And I just didn't know, I think he was at Russian sort of out of necessity in the spring, and now they have some more guys a little more equipped for that. And I think he'll be a good big end, strong side guy at that spot. So that's about where I'm at there. But I think a lot of things are still unfolding.
It always makes me feel a lot better when a smart football mind like yourself agrees with what we've been saying. Because last week, like, that was our big storyline out of just the first day of fall camp is, my goodness gracious, I know this probably means the bar is on the floor, but they're healthy. So like you said, Stan Ramble, Alex Sumer, my goodness gracious, also Cole Dellinger and Gavin Brocious. Gavin Brocious last fall, I mean, you're looking for, okay, well, what does he got to say about fall camp? And then he posts on Twitter his leg in some robotic apparatus. It's like, oh, my, I don't think he's going to be playing this year. But just health is so important because, just like you said, Steven, last few off seasons, that has been a storyline, and it was proven to impact how the season went. Mm-hmm. Sure, there's a lot of other factors that went on, but hey, you want to start healthy, right? So just right off the top right there. Also, with the quotes that we've been hearing out of fall camp, look, Brendan Parachek, he's getting a lot of shine right now, right? Like Brian Lindgren just said that he could very well be one of the next NFL tight ends that they have developed under their tutelage here. If I just use the word tutelage correctly, I'm really swinging for the fences right now.
You did. You nailed it.
That's what I'm talking about.
We're
celebrating with some happy hour after that one. Also, Nick Marsh being dubbed as special by Montori Foster. Jonathan Smith remarked about him. Aiden Childs remarked about him. But other than those two guys, anyone else getting some shine or surprising amount of buzz going into fall camp here?
Those are probably two of the main ones. Luke Newman's a guy who's come up a couple times.
Okay.
The transfer from Holy Cross was a tackle down there. FCS All-American, like 3-time All Patriot League, whatever league he was in. I think it's Patriot League.
Take your word for it. Yeah.
Very decorated, player at that level. Came here though, and they initially are slotting him inside. So guard, he's taking some reps at center. Probably, the leader at right guard right now. And then you're looking at Brocious and Christian Phillips probably at the left. But the guards are going to come from that list of 3 people probably. Yeah. I'm a little curious if Newman, if they just try him at tackle, because he doesn't have a Big Ten tackles frame, which is why he ended up at FCS to begin with. But, if he can play it, he can play. You're not in a position to worry about measurables necessarily right now. So if he's the best guy, and they're just a little thin at tackle right now, I do think Ashton Lepo is an intriguing guy moving forward. And Ramil, if he can get back to health, definitely has a high upside. But I'm curious about him. He's come up a little bit. Everybody there loves Nate Carter, no surprise. Absolutely loves him. So he's come up a couple times. Jerron Glover was somebody Jonathan Smith mentioned, which to me is good to hear because I think he might be their most complete receiver right now.
Okay.
I think he could be their leading receiver. I really like Jerron Glover,
Gotcha.
just in the small bursts that he's shown us. I think he's got a lot of good tools to him. I think he can play all over the formation for him and do different things. So it's just been an opportunity for him. So I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up, their leader in catches or receiving yards or touchdowns. But yeah, Nick Marsh has been a big one for sure. I definitely think he's going to be involved. Parachek you mentioned for sure. I mean, they had to be doing backflips when they walked in and saw that that's a guy that they were inheriting. He was a prototypical frame, very good athlete, catches the ball well. They're gonna daydream about scheming things up for him for the next couple of years for sure.
And really quick before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week here. Hey, it's by and large a new coaching staff. Yes, they kept some guys around, but so far, who's your favorite guy to talk to? Who's been the most open book? Who's giving you the most goods so far, Steven?
I like a lot of them, truly and honestly. The coordinators, man, like it was so talking to them the other day, just like real answers, talking like not super deep, but like just some like especially with Joe Rossi, like explaining like just sort of some scheme stuff and like here's how the linebackers fit in and just and whatnot. So like it's really interesting to talk football with both of them. And Lindgren, the same thing, just sort of practical, like real life, like football stuff. He was talking about like the best offenses run with a good offensive line and good quarterback play. And it's like, all right, like kind of laid out like those are the ingredients. Let's see how much of either of those things you have this year.
Yeah.
But also I'll shout out Chad Wilt though. He's a good time. Like in terms of like going out to get a beer with somebody, probably would be him. A lot of energy, just great communicator. doesn't take himself too seriously. I don't think just loves the game, loves his job. Like I said, a great energy with that guy. I think I'd like to play for him.
Love it. That's what I'm talking about. I've also loved this conversation with you as always, Steven. Thank you for coming here anywhere between 50 to 150 times now on this show. Would love to drag you back on here for the football season, but if you finally want to say no one of these times, my God, just do it for your own sake. Anything you want to plug here before we let you go enjoy the rest of your week?
I can't say no. The pay is too good. I need the money.
That's true. That's true.
I do want to plug something. Yeah, come give us a shot at Spartan Tailgate. We're running a 60% off sale right now. So we're talking let me see here, under $375 a month. You spend that on coffee every morning.
Wow, not bad.
Lock in for the year. Great rate right now. I promise we'll make it worth it. We just added to our team with Noah Sprunger, so we're bigger and better now. And like you lock in now, you're gonna get all of football season, all of basketball season, signing day, both signing days, both sports. All of spring football, all of next summer's recruiting camps, football and basketball, right up to the doorstep of training camp, basically, if you sign up today. I mean, you're going to get a lot for that year. And, you're going to do it eventually. You might as well do it now when it's cheap. So come give us a shot, and I think we'll make it worth it for you.
That's what I'm talking about. Folks, we will be back. You already know it. It's tomorrow. We do this 5 days a week here on Locked on Spartans. Until then, hey, enjoy the rest of your week. Love you all. Go Green.